I have a question for you, and I want you to really visualize this scenario because it is pure nightmare fuel. You are at the doctor's office. It's a routine procedure, nothing life-threatening, just a standard consultation. And in the middle of the exam, the doctor stops what he is doing, backs away from the table, looks you dead in the eye, and asks, "How many kidneys do you have?"
That is the single most terrifying question a medical professional could possibly ask.
Right.
It implies two things immediately. One, he doesn't know, and two, the answer is probably not two.
Exactly. It suggests you are operating on a completely different set of specs than, the rest of the human population. Well, today on The Deep Dive, we are unpacking an episode of the radio program Past Week, Next Week that starts with that exact medical horror story. And it somehow spirals into a breakdown of political satire, protests in Minneapolis, and a documentary about the former First Lady that might accidentally be a comedy.
It is a wild ride. The hosts, Chris and Paul, along with their producer Boogie, they managed to weave together a narrative that just oscillates between biological decay and societal decay. It's funny, it's gross, and it's surprisingly deep.
It really is. And we have to start with the medical mystery because it completely hijacked the show. It all centers around Boogie. He's in his 50s, life is good, and he goes in for a vasectomy consultation.
Yeah.
He's expecting a 5-minute conversation about logistics.
Just the snip talk. But he's seeing a Dr. Hinger, and the doctor starts the physical exam. Now, for those who aren't brushed up on their male anatomy, the doctor is looking for the vas deferens.
Okay.
These are the two tubes that carry sperm for the testicles. Factory standard is one on the right, one on the left.
Pretty basic plumbing. So the doctor finds the right one, no problem.
But then he moves to the left side. And the source material gets very descriptive here. Boogie describes the doctor twisting and massaging for a solid 2 minutes.
Oof.
Yeah, he's really digging around in there.
Which is already uncomfortable just to listen to.
Incredibly. And finally, the doctor just steps back and drops the bomb. I can't find the second tube.
Okay, so pause. How does a grown man go 50 years without realizing he's missing a piece of his own anatomy? You'd think you'd notice that.
Well, you wouldn't really. It's all internal. But here is the deep insight that I think most listeners would totally miss. The doctor immediately pivots from, I can't find the tube, to, how many kidneys do you have?
Right.
Now, to the layman, those two things seem completely unrelated. What does the reproductive system have to do with the renal system?
That was my thought exactly. It feels like a mechanic telling you your transmission is blown because your radio doesn't work.
But it's actually based on embryology. When a male fetus is developing in the womb, the kidneys and the reproductive tract, specifically the vas deferens, they develop from the same precursor structure. It's called the Wolffian duct.
The Wolffian duct.
Yes. Think of it as the shared blueprint or like the shared scaffolding. If that duct fails to develop properly on one side, you don't just lose the vas deferens. There is a massive statistical probability, we're talking 80% or higher in some studies, that the kidney on that same side never developed either.
Wow.
It's a condition called congenital unilateral absence of the vas deferens, or CUAVD.
So because the blueprint was smudged on the left side, Boogie has potentially been walking around his entire life with only one kidney and had absolutely no idea.
Correct. He's been operating on a single engine. And the psychological shift in the episode is fascinating to watch. Boogie goes from this confident guy getting a procedure to suddenly feeling, as he puts it, incomplete. He's joking about it. They nickname him One-Tube Boogie. But you can hear the genuine vulnerability in his voice. He suddenly feels fragile.
Well, the jokes were flying, but they had a dark edge to them. They started doing the math on his alcohol consumption. Boogie apparently enjoys his Tito's vodka.
Right. And if he's been drinking thinking he has 2 filters, but he only has 1, well, that single kidney has been working double shifts since the 1980s.
That's a scary thought.
Boogie made the joke that his kidney is like Michael Clark Duncan in The Green Mile, just exhausted. I'm tired, boss.
It's hilarious, but it's also that moment where you realize you aren't invincible. And it wasn't just Boogie. The show seemed to have this theme of bodies betraying us this week. Host Chris had his own medical reality check.
He did. He went for a physical with a new doctor and got the full, middle-aged menu, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and a surprise hernia he didn't even know he had.
A silent hernia to go with a silent missing kidney.
And the threat of GLP-1 medication. The doctor basically gave him an ultimatum.
Oh my
Lose
God.
weight or you're getting on the shots. So you have these two hosts who usually talk about the news, suddenly confronted with the fact that their biological machinery is breaking down. And I think that sets the stage for how they view the political news later in the episode.
That's a really interesting connection. You think the physical decay influences their take on the political decay?
Absolutely. If you feel like your own internal systems are failing, the external systems, government, society, culture, start to look a lot more fragile too. And the week they covered was just incredibly chaotic.
It was a laundry list of chaos. They call the segment Promises Made, Promises Kept, which is usually sarcastic, but this time it was just a timeline of unrest. They started with a discussion about Bruce Springsteen's song, Streets of Minneapolis.
This is a cultural touch point. There was a debate about whether it was a new song or an old, unreleased track, but the context was Frank Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone's brother.
That's the one.
Yeah.
He was criticizing it. He felt it denigrated ICE, immigration, and customs enforcement.
Which frames the song as a protest anthem, and the show uses that to pivot to the actual streets of Minneapolis. The source material mentions protests following the death of someone named Alex, and reports of non-lethal bullets being used on crowds. It sounded heavy.
It was heavy. And the hosts didn't shy away from the confusion of it all. They listed off administrative shakeups. The replacement of Bevino, with Tom Homan at the head of immigration enforcement.
Right.
And I love the pop culture reference they used here. They called Homan Hedley Lamar.
From Blazing Saddles.
Right. Coding the political figure as a movie villain. It's how they processed the threat. But then things got surreal. I mean, truly bizarre. Did you catch the Trump accounts segment?
I had to rewind that part because I thought I was hallucinating. Nicki Minaj was involved.
You were not hallucinating.
Yeah.
The hosts discuss a summit about a proposal to give like $1,000 to babies, part of these so-called Trump accounts. And appearing to support this is Nicki Minaj. The hosts call her a Minajite.
Wait, so we have protests in the streets, journalists getting arrested. They mentioned Don Lemon and 3 other black journalists being detained. And at the same time, Nicki Minaj is endorsing baby bonuses and claiming she's getting fast-track citizenship.
It creates a sense of vertigo, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a collision of the serious and the absurd. You have First Amendment violations happening right next to celebrity endorsements of economic policy. The hosts seem baffled by the timeline they are living in.
I'll say.
But nothing, and I mean nothing baffled them more than the Oval Office incident.
We have to talk about this. I almost skipped it because it's so graphic, but the analysis they do on it is actually important.
It is. The show details a report treated as a major news event, alleging that Donald Trump had a, let's call it a severe gastrointestinal malfunction.
During a press conference.
During a press conference. Yeah.
We're talking about a clear-the-room situation.
The source material describes an unbearable stench, reporters gagging, and emergency cleaning crews. They describe it as a total breakdown of physical control.
Now, in a normal world, or at least the world we used to live in, a leader soiling themselves on live television would be the end. It's the ultimate sign of weakness. It's humiliating.
You would think so. But the expert analysis within the show argues the exact opposite. They make the point that his polling numbers wouldn't move an inch.
Not at all.
They argue that the base is so solidified that even extreme physical embarrassment, something that would destroy a normal person's dignity, is just glossed over.
That is a fascinating parallel to the medical segment. Boogie loses a tube and feels incomplete. Chris gets a hernia and feels old. They are vulnerable to their biology. But the political figure at the top can have a total breakdown of control and face 0 consequences.
It's the ultimate immunity. The rules of biology and shame apply to us, but not to them. And that frustration bleeds right into the next segment, which was about the new Melania documentary.
This might have been my favorite part of the episode because of how confused they were. They're discussing a doc titled Melania, supposedly funded by Jeff Bezos for $40 million.
Which is an insane budget for a documentary. But Chris reads a review that compares it to Waiting for Guffman.
A mockumentary.
Exactly. The review suggests that the film is so serious and Melania is so guarded and silent that it accidentally becomes a comedy. There's a line they quote, "She refuses to answer any question in a way that could only be mistaken for information."
That is a scathing critique. It's basically saying her silence is being sold as depth, but it's actually just empty.
And the hosts wrestle with this. Is it a real documentary? Is it performance art? Is it a prank? Paul, one of the hosts, took this ambiguity and ran with it. He talks about a listener appreciation event where he rented out a theater in Independence, Missouri to watch it.
And the costumes.
The costumes. Paul dressed up as Tom Holman, the new immigration chief we mentioned earlier.
Oh, that's right.
So you have a radio host cosplaying as a government official, sitting in a theater in Missouri, watching a documentary about the first lady that plays like a Christopher Guest movie.
It's so meta. It's like they are trying to reclaim the power by turning the scary political reality into a costume party.
It's a defense mechanism. If you can mock the pageantry, it becomes less intimidating. But while they can laugh at Melania, there is one thing that they absolutely could not laugh at, and that was Gen Z discussing the Beatles.
Oh, this segment, this was the old man yells at cloud moment of the episode?
It really was. They found reaction videos on TikTok where Gen Z listeners are hearing the Beatles or Michael Jackson for the first time.
And the hosts were not pleased.
They were furious.
Yeah.
There was a specific clip of a young woman listening to a Beatles song and calling it performative. She says she has only scratched the surface and acts shocked that the song has a coherent structure.
I have to play devil's advocate here. She's young. She's discovering it for the first time. Why does that make them so angry? Isn't it good she's listening?
It's the framing. The hosts feel that calling the Beatles performative or treating them like an obscure indie discovery is a form of erasure. It's stripping the music of its context and its history. It's the feeling that the culture that defined their lives is now just content for a 15-second video.
So first, your body betrays you, the kidney. Then the political world becomes a circus, the protests and the Oval Office accident. And now the culture moves on and treats your heroes like novelties.
It's a trifecta of obsolescence. It's the realization that the world is moving away from you in every direction.
That is surprisingly tragic for a comedy show.
It is.
Yeah.
But they balance it. They did mention the movie Sinners, the Ryan Coogler vampire film, getting 16 Oscar nominations. And they loved the Wonder series on Disney Plus there. So they aren't totally checked out. They're just struggling with the shift.
I want to pivot to the final segment because after all this high-level analysis of society and biology, they stripped it all back to some incredibly personal, cringe-worthy stories in a get-to-know-us segment.
This is where the parasocial relationship really solidifies. You hear these stories and you realize, oh, these guys are human disasters just like the rest of us.
Chris told a story from high school biology class that made me physically recoil.
The phlegm story.
It is vivid. He's sitting next to a girl he likes, Amy W. He coughs and accidentally hacks up a giant wad of phlegm into his hand.
And the panic sets in. He can't wipe it on his pants. He can't ask for a tissue because that draws attention. So what does he do?
He fakes a yawn.
He fakes a yawn and wipes it under the science table. It's the fake yawn detail that makes it so relatable. It's that teenage desperation to maintain a facade of coolness while literally holding a handful of grossness.
But Boogie's story circles back to that one-tube obliviousness we talked about at the start.
It fits his character profile perfectly.
Yeah.
He talks about being in middle school and asking a girl for a high five. She refuses. He insists. He's pushing it. Come on, up high.
And he doesn't realize.
He doesn't realize she has a limb difference, a baby doll hand, as he called it. He essentially forced a girl with a physical difference to high-five him because he simply wasn't paying attention.
The debate on the show was whether he was being malicious or just oblivious. His friends thought he was mocking her.
But Boogie swears he just didn't see it. And honestly, knowing what we know now, that this is a man who walked around for 50 years not knowing he was missing a vast errands, I believe him.
Yeah.
He moves through the world with a certain blindness to the details.
It's a harsh lesson in situational awareness. And speaking of awareness, they close the show with a rant about return-to-office mandates that I think will resonate with a lot of our listeners.
This was the most grounded part of the episode. They were answering a listener question about workplace rules, and they absolutely tore apart the logic of forcing distributed teams into a local office.
The argument being, if my team is in Dallas and New York, and I'm in Kansas City, why am I driving 45 minutes to sit in a cubicle in Kansas City just to Zoom with the people in Dallas?
It connects back to that performative comment about the Beatles. The hosts argue that RTO mandates are performative work. It's not about productivity. It's about appearing to be working. It's about control.
Boogie was adamant about this. He's a pragmatic guy. Don't waste my gas. Don't waste my time. Chris, ironically, tried to defend the social aspect a little bit, but even he admitted he hates the annual review process.
Which again creates a picture of men who are tired of jumping through hoops, whether those hoops are medical, political, or corporate. They just want things to make sense, and nothing seems to make sense anymore.
So, When we step back and look at this entire deep dive, from the missing kidney to the protests, from Melania to the phlegm under the desk, what is the big picture here? What are Chris and Paul actually doing with this show?
I think they are documenting the absurdity of the modern human experience. They're showing us that life isn't genre-specific. You don't get to be in a medical drama today and a political thriller tomorrow. You are in everything all at once.
You're dealing with a missing organ while you're worrying about a protest, while you're annoyed about a TikTok video.
Exactly. There's a beautiful moment near the end where they pivot from discussing a discombobulator weapon in Venezuela, some sci-fi sounding threat Trump mentioned, to a really sweet discussion about family traditions. Paul talks about going to the same breakfast spot every Saturday for 42 years.
42 years of pancakes.
That consistency is the anchor. The world is crazy, your body is falling apart, the news is terrifying, but the Saturday pancakes are still there. That's the show. It's the panic and the pancakes.
And maybe the realization that you've been operating on half a tank the whole time.
That brings us back to the biggest takeaway, the 1-2 Boogie revelation.
It really does make you wonder. We assume we are factory standard. We assume we have all the parts listed in the manual.
But Boogie proves we might not. So here's the provocative thought I want to leave you with today. If you found out right now, this second, that you were missing a vital part of your biology that you've relied on your whole life, how would you interpret your past?
Would you feel cheated? Would you feel fragile? Or would you feel like a superhero?
Boogie realized he's been doing the work of 2 men with the kidneys of 1. Maybe we are all more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. Or maybe we should just go get a sonogram.
I think I'm going to schedule one immediately. That is all the time we have for this deep dive into Past Week Next Week.
It's been a wild ride.
Thanks for listening. Stay curious, stay healthy, and check your tubes.
Couldn't hurt.